The glow of my phone screen lit up my face in the dark living room. It was 10 at night when I called my son to confirm the time for Christmas dinner. His voice sounded distant, almost annoyed by the interruption. "Dad, dinner will be with Emily's parents. It is just more special. I hope you understand." He hung up before I could answer. I stood there with the phone in my hand, feeling how 30 years of effort crumbled in a single sentence. Special. That word echoed in my head like a hammer hitting steel. What was so special about my daughter-in-law's parents that I did not have? Had he forgotten who paid for his college? Who gave him the down payment for his first house? Who deposited money into his account every month without fail when he was barely starting his career as an architect? My name is Robert Miller. I am 68 years old, and I built a fortune few men of my generation achieved. 3 properties in Chicago, a lake house, and shares in 2 companies I founded with my own hands. I inherited nothing. Every dollar I have carries the sweat of my sleepless nights, of the endless trips, of the cold meals because I arrived late from work. I married young. Laura was an extraordinary woman who gave me 2 children, Michael and Sarah. Laura died 5 years ago from cancer. The last few months were a hell that I faced alone because Michael was too busy with his new family, and Sarah lived in Seattle, calling once a month if I was lucky. When Laura closed her eyes for the last time, I was holding her hand. Michael arrived at the funeral 2 hours late because traffic was impossible. After Laura died, everything changed. Or maybe it was always like that, and I was too busy building a future to notice. Michael married Emily 3 years ago. She is a woman from a wealthy family, an only child, used to the world revolving around her. From the beginning, I noticed the way she looked at me, like I was an old piece of furniture getting in the way in the living room. But I stayed silent. Parents always stay silent too much. The wedding cost over $40,000. I paid 60%. Emily's parents paid the rest and made sure everyone knew it. During the toast, her father, a businessman with more ego than brains, gave a 20-minute speech about the effort it took to give his princess the wedding of her dreams. He did not mention my name a single time. Michael did not do it either. That night, as I watched my son dance with his new wife, I had a strange sensation in my chest. It was not exactly sadness. It was the feeling that something had broken forever. The first months after the wedding were a slow disappearance. Calls became scarce. Visits became non-existent. There was always an excuse. Work, social commitments, trips. Emily had a special skill for scheduling family plans exactly when I hoped to see Michael. One day my son told me they needed help to remodel the kitchen. $20,000. I gave it to them without thinking twice. 3 weeks later, I saw photos of their trip to Europe on Emily's Facebook. "We needed to disconnect," the caption said. The kitchen was never remodeled. But I kept depositing money every month. I kept helping. I kept being the father they needed when it was convenient for them. 6 months ago, my grandson Matthew was born. When Michael called to give me the news, I cried like I had not cried since Laura's funeral. I thought a grandson could give me back something I had lost. I thought the family would go back to being what it was. How naive I was. The first few weeks I tried to visit them constantly. I brought gifts, baby clothes, toys. Emily would receive me at the door with a tense smile. "Robert, thank you, but it is time for the baby's nap." "Oh, Robert, today is not a good day. We have guests." Always Robert, never Dad, never Grandpa, as if I were a door-to-door salesman. Michael said nothing. He just looked at his phone while his wife dismissed me. Emily's parents, on the other hand, seemed to live in that house. Every time I managed to get in, there they were, hogging the baby, giving orders, rearranging the furniture. Emily's mother, Linda, a woman with a voice like a police siren, looked at me with barely disguised contempt. "Oh, Robert, I did not know you were coming. We always call ahead." One afternoon, while I was holding Matthew for the first time in 3 weeks, I heard Linda tell Emily in the kitchen, "I do not understand why he keeps coming if it is obvious he is not needed here." Michael was sitting 6 feet away. He said absolutely nothing. That night, driving back to my empty house, I understood something fundamental. To my son, I had become a source of resources, not a father. And to Emily, I was simply a nuisance she tolerated because my bank account was still useful. But one does not build an empire by being naive. One does not survive 40 years in business without learning to read people. And I had just finished reading my own family. December arrived with its fake joy. The malls filled with lights, the streets with carols, social media with falsely perfect families. I spent my days in my office reviewing contracts, checking investments, keeping my mind busy so I would not think about Christmas Eve dinner. Because I knew, in the bottom of my soul, that something bad was going to happen. On December 15th, Michael called me. His voice sounded strangely animated. "Dad, Emily and I want to do something special for Christmas. An unforgettable dinner at the house. But with the baby and the expenses, it is a little complicated. Do you think you could help us?" The request was clear. $2,000 for Christmas dinner. Imported turkey, wines, decorations, gifts. "I want my son to have his first perfect Christmas," he told me. And I, like the idiot I had been for years, said yes. I transferred the money that same afternoon. "Thanks, Dad. We expect you on the 24th at 8. It is going to be a special night." During the next few days, I bought gifts for Matthew. Designer clothes, educational toys, a first edition of a storybook I used to read to Michael when he was a boy. I wrapped every gift with care, imagining my son's face when he saw how much I cared about his family. On December 20th, I received a WhatsApp message from Emily, a photo from the airport. She, Michael, and the baby posing in front of the boarding gates. "We are going away for a few days to rest. Happy holidays." I called Michael immediately. He answered on the 5th ring with airport noise in the background. "Dad, we are about to board. Where are you going? You told me dinner was at your house." There was an awkward silence. I heard Emily's voice in the background telling him something I could not catch. "Dad, an incredible opportunity came up. Emily's parents invited us to their beach house. You know how this is. The reservations were made in advance, and the money I gave you for dinner?" Another silence. "Well, we used it for the tickets and part of the trip. We needed a family vacation, you understand, right?" I did not understand anything. Or rather, I understood everything perfectly. "And Christmas dinner?" "Ah, that. Well, we are going to do it there, with Emily's parents. They have an incredible house on the coast. It is going to be something more special. I hope you understand, Dad. It is not personal. Special." There was that word again, like a slap in the face. "And me?" "Well, you can do something quiet at your house, or go with Sarah. Do you not always say you need time for yourself?" The line went dead before I could answer. He did not call me back. I sat in my study for hours, watching the daylight turn into darkness. The wrapped gifts were piled in the corner, next to the tree I had decorated alone. The house was silent. A silence that hurt more than any scream. I did not sleep that night. I sat in front of my computer and reviewed all the bank movements of the last 3 years. Every transfer to Michael, every loan he never paid back, every emergency that turned out to be a whim. It added up to over $100,000. $100,000 that my son had received without a sincere thank you. $100,000 that had bought trips, designer clothes, expensive restaurants, luxuries to impress the in-laws who actually were special. And I, the one who built everything from zero, the one who never denied them anything, was not special enough to spend Christmas with my only grandson. At 3 in the morning I made a decision. I was not going to scream at them. I was not going to beg them. I was not going to humiliate myself asking for a seat at the table I had paid for myself. I was going to do something much more effective. I opened my email and wrote to my accountant. "I need you to cancel all automatic transfers to Michael Miller's account, effective immediately." Then I called the bank and blocked the additional credit cards I had given him. Finally, I contacted the property manager where Michael lived. "The lease is in my name. I want to review the early termination clauses. Because that house, like many other things in my son's life, was paid for by me. It was not revenge. It was justice. If I was not special enough for them, then they would discover how special it was to live without my money." Christmas arrived. I spent December 24th alone, with a simple dinner I cooked myself. I did not play music. I did not watch Christmas movies. I simply sat on the terrace, with a glass of whiskey, watching the city lights. My phone remained silent all day. Not a message. Not a call. As if I did not exist. But I existed, and I was about to remind them exactly who I was. On December 28th, 3 days after Christmas, my phone rang at 11 at night. It was Michael. I answered on the 3rd ring. "Dad, His voice sounded upset, almost desperate. Are you there? I am here. There's a serious problem. We arrived today from the trip and the house has no power. I called the electric company and they say the bill was not paid. It has not been paid for 2 months. Did you forget? Dad, we have a baby. We cannot be without power. I leaned back in my chair. I took a sip of my coffee and smiled. I did not forget anything, Michael. Then what happened? We need you to fix it. Emily is furious. The baby is crying. It is cold and I am canceling everything. Silence. What? The electric bill, the water, the gas, the house lease, the monthly transfers, the credit cards, everything. I am canceling everything. Dad, you cannot do that. We have a family. We have a baby. I had a family too, or so I thought. This is because we did not invite you to dinner, right? Dad, do not be like that. I already explained that it was something special. Yes, I understood perfectly. Now I hope you understand this. It is over. What is over? The bank of Dad. The favors, the transfers, everything. From now on, son, you are going to learn to live with your own money. The money you earn without my help. But Dad, Merry Christmas, Michael. I hope it was special. I hung up. The phone started ringing immediately. 1 call, 2, 5, 10. Then the messages arrived. From Michael, from Emily, even one from Linda, Emily's mother, with a condescending tone. Robert, I know you are upset, but this is childish. Think of your grandson. I did not answer any of them. That night I slept better than I had in months, because I had finally recovered something I had lost a long time ago. My dignity. The following days were a festival of missed calls and increasingly desperate messages. Michael tried all the strategies. First came anger. You are selfish. You cannot do this to us. Then guilt. Mom would be disappointed in you. Then negotiation. Okay, we made a mistake. Can we talk? And finally, pleading. Dad, please, we need you. But I had learned something fundamental in my life. Respect is not begged for. It is earned. And they had lost the right to ask me for anything. On January 3rd, Emily appeared at my house. She rang the doorbell insistently until I opened. She was carrying the baby in her arms, crying. She also had red eyes. Robert, please, we need to talk. I looked at her in silence. I know Michael made a mistake. I know I made a mistake. But you cannot punish the baby for our mistakes. I am not punishing anyone. I simply stopped giving away what is not valued. We need your help. The rent is due in a week, and then I suggest your husband looks for a better job, or that you ask your parents for help. The special ones. Her face transformed. The mask of pleading fell, and the real Emily appeared, the one who had always despised me. You are a bitter old man. Michael is right. You have never known how to be a good father. Maybe you are right. But I know very well how to stop being an idiot. I closed the door. Her screams resonated in the street for 5 minutes. Then she left. I did not feel guilt. I did not feel remorse. I felt peace. The first days of January passed with a strange calm. My phone kept receiving messages, but less frequently each time. Michael had gone from desperation to negotiation, and then to resentful silence. Emily, for her part, had blocked my number after our last encounter. I did not care. I had built my life from scratch twice. Once when I was young and poor. Another when Laura died and left me alone in this huge house. I could rebuild my relationship with solitude a third time, or so I thought. On January 9th, I received a call from Sarah, my daughter, the one who lived in Seattle and barely spoke to me twice a year. Her voice sounded worried but also annoyed. Dad, what did you do? Good morning, Sarah. How are you? Michael called me crying. He says you kicked them out, that you took everything away from them, that they are about to lose their house. I poured myself a coffee while I listened. I already knew this story. I already knew how it would end. Is that what he told you? Dad, they have a baby. You cannot be so cruel. Cruel? I am the cruel one. I know Michael did not invite you to Christmas, but that does not justify. Sarah, when was the last time we talked? Silence. When was the last time you visited me? When was the last time you remembered you have a father? Dad, I have my life in Seattle. I have my job. Exactly. You have your life. Michael has his. Everyone has their lives. Everyone except me, apparently. I only exist when you need money. Do you think it is fair that— You know it is not fair, Sarah, to bury your mother practically alone because you two were too busy, passing 3 consecutive Christmases dining in restaurants because neither of my children had time for me. Discovering that the money I gave for a kitchen was spent on a trip to Europe, that is not fair. Another silence. Longer. I did not know that. Of course you did not know, because you never ask. Neither of you asks. You only call when you need something. Dad. Sarah, I love you. You are my daughter, and you always will be. But I am not going to keep being an ATM with feelings. If Michael needs help, let him work. If you need something, we can talk like adults. But gifts without reciprocity are over. Money without respect is over. She hung up without saying goodbye. That night, sitting in my study, I reviewed the family photographs I kept in my desk drawer. Laura and me at our wedding, the small children laughing on the beach, Michael graduating from college in his blue gown, Sarah the day she moved to Seattle, hugging me at the airport. At what moment had everything broken down? At what moment did I go from being dad to being a nuisance with a checkbook? The answer arrived with brutal clarity. When I stopped demanding respect because I was afraid of being left alone. But now I was alone anyway. The difference was that I had chosen this solitude, and there was dignity in that. On January 15th, my accountant called me with interesting news. Mr. Miller, I received a call from the bank. Your son Michael tried to use one of the credit cards you canceled. The transaction was denied. He also tried to apply for a loan using your house as collateral. But since the property is in your name, he would need your authorization. How much did he try to take out? $7,500. I laughed. A bitter laugh that tasted like victory. Let them deny him everything. Everything in my name remains blocked. Understood. I also inform you that Mrs. Emily Miller tried to contact me directly. She wanted to know if there was any way to negotiate with you. What did you tell her? That all communications had to go through you. She got quite upset. Perfect. Keep it that way. That same afternoon, while I was having lunch at my favorite restaurant, a discreet place downtown where I had known the owner for 20 years, I received a message from an unknown number. Robert, this is Linda, Emily's mom. We need to talk. It is urgent. I left the phone on the table and kept eating my steak. It was perfectly medium rare, just how I liked it. The red wine was a reserve from Napa Valley that I had chosen personally. The background music was soft jazz. Everything was perfect. The phone vibrated again. Robert, I know you are there. Answer. This is for the good of your grandson. Always the grandson. Always the guilt. I dialed the number. Linda answered on the first ring with her usual shrill voice. Robert, good thing you answered. Look, I know you have had differences with the kids, but this has gotten out of control. Emily is very stressed. Michael cannot concentrate on his work. The baby is suffering. Or you are suffering because you no longer have access to my money. Do not be rude. This is serious. You are right. It is very serious. So serious that I need you to understand something, Linda. Your daughter and my son are adults. Adults who decided to use me as a personal bank while excluding me from their family. Now they are learning what real life costs. But you have plenty of money. What does it cost you to help them? That question, that damn question that sums up everything that is wrong, what does it cost me? It cost me 30 years of work. It cost me building a business from scratch. It cost me sacrificing time with my family to give them a future. And now it costs me my dignity to keep giving away what is not valued. You are selfish. A selfish old man who— I hung up, I blocked the number, and I ordered dessert. Days turned into weeks. February arrived with its cold, dry air. I had resumed my routine. Gym in the mornings, office until noon, lunches with old friends, reading in the afternoons. I had forgotten how good it felt to live for oneself. My businesses were thriving. Without the family distractions, I had closed 2 major contracts. My wealth kept growing. Ironic, I thought. While my family was crumbling, my fortune was increasing. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, I received a package at my door. It was a large box, wrapped in pink paper. I opened it with curiosity. Inside was a photo album. Photos of Matthew, my grandson, smiling, sleeping, playing. On every page there was a handwritten note from Michael. Dad, this is your grandson, the one you are not getting to know because of pride. Matthew will ask about you someday. What am I going to tell him? Mom would have never wanted this. The last page had a photo of Laura, my late wife, holding Michael as a baby. Underneath, in my son's handwriting, she taught you to love. Do not forget it. I closed the album with force. My hands were shaking, not from sadness, from fury. How did he dare use Laura's memory to manipulate me? How did he dare talk to me about love when he had treated me like garbage? I took the album and put it in the deepest drawer of my desk. I did not throw it away. I could not, but I was not going to let that cheap tactic work either. Laura taught me to love, yes, but she also taught me to respect myself. On March 1st, my lawyer called me with information that would change everything. Mr. Miller, I have news about the property where your son lives. Tell me. The lease expires on March 31st. I have reviewed the clauses, and you have the right not to renew without giving explanations. Also, Michael is 2 months behind on rent. We could start an eviction process if necessary. 2 months behind on a rent that was not exactly expensive. What was my son spending his money on? What do you recommend? Legally, you can recover the property without problems. But being your son, maybe you want to consider. I am not going to renew the contract. Silence on the other end. Mr. Miller, you understand what this means. I know perfectly well what it means. I am not going to renew. I want the property back by the end of March. Very well. I will prepare the legal notice. I hung up and poured myself a whiskey. It was 11 in the morning, but this decision deserved a drink. I was not throwing my son onto the street. I was recovering what was mine. There is a fundamental difference there. Michael received the notice on March 5th. 2 hours later, he was knocking on my door like a madman. I did not open. I had security cameras and I could see him from my phone. He was screaming, pounding on the door, crying, "Dad, open up! We have to talk! You cannot do this to us! You cannot!" After 20 minutes, he gave up and left. That night I received a voicemail from Emily. Her voice was pure poison. "Robert, you are a piece of trash of a human being. You are leaving us on the street. Your grandson. Do you know what kind of grandfather you are? A monster. That is what you are. And when Matthew grows up, I am going to tell him exactly what kind of man you are. He is going to be ashamed to carry your last name." I deleted the message without finishing it. On March 10th, Michael appeared at my office. He had dodged my secretary and walked straight into my private room. He looked terrible. Gaunt, deep dark circles, several days' beard. "Dad, please." I leaned back in my chair and observed him. For a moment I saw the little boy who used to climb on my knees asking me to take him to the park. That memory hurt more than any insult. "Sit down." He slumped into the chair across from my desk. He looked like a defeated man. "Dad, I am sorry. I am sorry for everything. Christmas, the lies, the money, everything. Are you sorry? Or are you sorry that your money ran out?" "Both things." At least he was honest. That was something. "Michael, do you know how much money I have given you in the last 3 years?" He shook his head. $115,000. That is, without counting the rent I pay monthly, the utilities, the insurance for the car you drive, the cell phone plan. He went pale. "No, I did not know it was that much." "Of course you did not know, because money that does not cost you anything is not valued." "Dad, I work. I earn good money." "Then why are you 2 months behind on rent? Why did you try to get a loan using my property? Why does Emily ask my accountant for money?" He had no answers. "I am going to tell you why. Because you are living above your means. Because you want to fake a standard of living you do not have. Because your wife needs to impress her friends and you need to impress your in-laws. And I, the idiot, was paying for that fantasy." "Dad, I have not finished. Do you know what hurts me the most, Michael? It is not the money. I can recover the money. What I cannot recover are the Christmases I spent alone, the calls you never answered, the times your wife closed the door in my face, the way I became a nuisance in my own son's life." He started to cry. Silent tears running down his cheeks. "I am sorry, Dad. I truly am sorry." "I know, but I am sorry is not enough." "What do you want me to do? Tell me. Anything." I stood up and walked to the window. The city stretched out in front of me, thousands of people living their lives, facing their problems, building their futures, each one of them dealing with their own pains. I want you to learn to live without me. I want you to value what you have through your own effort. I want that when Matthew grows up, you teach him that dignity is not sold, that respect is not begged for, that family is not a convenient concept that activates when money is needed. Do not kick us out of the house, please. It is already decided. Where are we going to go? That, son, is your problem, not mine. He stayed there, sitting, crying like a child. Part of me wanted to hug him, tell him everything would be okay, that I would fix it like always. But that part of me was the one that had brought us to this point. The other part, the part that had built an empire with its own hands, knew this was necessary. You can go. He stood up slowly, walked to the door, stopped before leaving. Mom was right about you. I turned around. About what? Before dying, Mom told me something. She said, "Your father is the strongest man I know, but his only weakness is you kids. Please do not abuse that." The words hit me like a fist in the stomach. We abused that, Dad. And now it is too late. He left, closing the door behind him. I stayed there, standing in front of the window, feeling a pain in my chest that was not physical but hurt as if it were. Laura had seen all this coming. Laura, with her silent wisdom, had known my children would take advantage of my love. And I had not listened to her. That night I drank more than I had drunk in years. Not until I was drunk, but until the pain became manageable. I took out the album Michael had sent me and looked at it completely. Every photo of Matthew, every smile, every moment I was missing. Was it worth it? Was this pain worth it to defend my dignity? The answer arrived with absolute clarity. Yes. Because if I gave in now, if I went back to being the emotional ATM, I would be teaching Matthew that it is okay to use people. I would be perpetuating the cycle, and I loved that boy too much to teach him that lesson. On March 20th, 3 weeks after our conversation in the office, Michael called me. "Dad, we found an apartment. It is smaller, in a neighborhood not as good, but it is what we can pay with my salary. I am glad. We need the deposit, and the first month. It is $2,000. There it was. The real reason for the call. Michael, did you understand anything of what we talked about? Dad, I have no one else to ask. Emily's parents said no. That we got ourselves into this problem and that we have to solve it, please. The irony was delicious. The special in-laws had turned out to be tougher than me. And what does Emily say? She is furious. She says this is your fault. That if you were a normal father... Stop. Silence. Michael, listen to me closely. I am not going to give you that money. I am not going to give you anything. You can sell your TV. You can sell your furniture. You can ask for a loan at the bank. You can do what millions of people do every day. Solve it with your own resources. Dad, we are your family. Then learn to treat me like family, not like a bank. I hung up. This time there were no more calls, no more pleas. It was as if they had finally understood I was serious. On March 31st, the day the lease expired, I sent my lawyer to supervise that the property was left empty. He reported to me at 6 in the evening. Mr. Miller, the property is vacated. They left everything clean, there was no damage. They left the keys with the doorman. Did you see Michael? No, sir. Only some movers. He had not even had the courage to look me in the face. That night I went to the property. It was a beautiful apartment on the Gold Coast. 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, terrace with a view of the city. I had bought it 10 years ago as an investment. Michael had lived there the last 5 years without paying a single dollar of rent. I walked through the empty rooms. My steps echoed in the silence. In the room that had been Matthew's, I found a drawing stuck to the wall, colorful scribbles made by a childish hand. I peeled it off carefully and put it in my wallet. It was the only thing I would take from there. April began with a disturbing calm. I knew nothing of Michael. I did not know where he lived, how he was, if Matthew was okay. Part of me wanted to call, ask, make sure they were not going hungry. But the stronger part of me knew that asking would be surrendering, and I do not surrender. On April 15th, while I was checking my email at the office, I received a notification from LinkedIn. Michael had updated his profile. New job. A position at a smaller architecture firm than the previous one, but with a role of greater responsibility. I felt something similar to pride. My son was fighting. A week later, Sarah called me. for the first time in months. Dad, can we talk? Sure. I want to come see you in Chicago this weekend. Do you have time? My daughter wanted to see me, without asking me for money first, without excuses. I have all the time in the world. On Saturday, Sarah arrived at my house with 2 suitcases. She had cried in the cab from the airport, she told me. I did not know what to expect. We sat on the terrace with coffee. She looked different, more mature, sadder too. Dad, I spoke with Michael. How is he? Devastated, but also different. He is working harder than ever. Emily had to get a job too. They are living in a small apartment in the suburbs. Matthew is in a public daycare. Every word was a dagger in my chest, but I kept my expression neutral. I am glad he is working. Dad, is all this worth it? Is it worth losing your family for pride? It is not pride, Sarah. It is dignity. And yes, it is worth it, she cried. I wanted to cry too, but I did not. I came to tell you something, she said finally. I came to ask for forgiveness, for not being there when Mom died, for not calling you, for treating you like an ATM. Michael is not the only one who did it wrong. I did not expect that. I also came to tell you that I admire you, that what you did was the hardest thing a father can do, letting his children fall so they learn to get up. I got up from my chair and hugged her. I hugged her like I had not hugged anyone since Laura died. And there, on that terrace, with my daughter in my arms, I felt that something was beginning to heal. Not everything, but something. Can you stay a few days? I asked her. I am staying the whole week. If you invite me, of course. You will always be welcome in this house. Always. That week with Sarah was a gift. We cooked together, watched movies, talked about Laura, about the mistakes of the past, about the uncertain future. She told me about her life in Seattle, her job as a veterinarian, her boyfriend who wanted to meet me. Why did you never tell me? I asked her. Because I thought you did not care, that you only cared about Michael because he needed you more. God, was that how my daughter had seen me all these years? Sarah, you have always been important to me. I know now. But before I did not know. Another painful lesson. In my attempt to help Michael, I had neglected Sarah. I had assumed that because she was independent, she did not need me. We all need to be needed. The last day before Sarah returned to Seattle, she told me something I will never forget. Dad, Michael asked me to tell you something. I told him no, that he had to tell you himself, but he insisted. What is it? He says thank you, that he hates admitting it, but that this has been the most important lesson of his life, that he is learning to be the man you wanted him to be, and that someday when he is ready, when he has something to offer you besides need, he is going to knock on your door. My chest hurt again, but it was a different pain, a pain that healed while it hurt. Tell him the door will always be open, but that he has to knock on it himself. I am not going to look for him. Sarah nodded. I know, and he knows it too. I took her to the airport. We said goodbye with a long hug. She promised to call me every week, and she kept her word. May arrived with its stifling heat and stormy afternoons. I had resumed my life completely. I had made new friends at the gym. I had traveled to Oregon for pleasure for the first time in years. I had started writing my memoirs. Life without the burden of ungrateful children was surprisingly good. But at night, when the house was silent, I would take out Matthew's drawing from my wallet and wonder if I would ever know him for real. If someday I could be the grandfather I wanted to be. Time would tell. For now, I had recovered something more valuable than any relationship. I had recovered myself, and that, I discovered, was enough. June brought with it a routine I had not experienced in decades. Genuine peace. I woke up early, not because I had urgent obligations, but because finally I slept well. The nightmares about my children's future had ceased. The constant knot in my stomach had disappeared. For the first time in years, I felt free. I had started taking photography classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, something I always wanted to do but eternally postponed because there were more important things. I also joined a reading group with other retired businessmen. We discussed novels, philosophy, history. Men my age who understood that financial success meant nothing if your own family saw you as a useful object. One of them, Fernando, a builder who had made a fortune in Texas, told me something that resonated deeply with me. Robert, Children are like investments. You can put all your capital in them, but if the project is poorly planned from the start, you are only financing your own ruin. Sometimes you have to cut losses and protect your emotional capital. He was right. I had invested emotionally and economically in Michael without demanding accountability, without setting limits, and the result had been predictable. A son who believed everything was owed to him. On June 12th, my 69th birthday, Sarah sent me a package. Inside was a photo album different from the one Michael had sent me. This one had old photographs. Me with Laura, the day of our wedding. The kids at their first communion. A vacation in Florida where Michael, 6 years old, built sandcastles while Sarah, 4, collected shells. On the last page was a letter from Sarah. Dad, these are the memories of when we were a real family. Before money complicated everything. Before we forgot that what matters is not how much you have, but how you share it. I love you. Happy birthday. I cried like I had not cried since Laura's funeral. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of cleansing, of purification. That night I dined alone at an elegant restaurant downtown. I ordered lobster and champagne. The waiter asked me if I was celebrating something special. My rebirth, I told him. He looked at me confused, but smiled politely. The next day, I received an email from an unknown address. The subject said, "From someone who owes you an apology." I opened it with caution. "Mr. Miller, this is Emily. I know you will probably delete this email without reading it, but I need to say this even if it is to the void. You were right. About everything. Michael and I were living in a fantasy paid for by you. I treated you horribly because you reminded me that our life was borrowed, not earned, and that made me feel small. These last few months have been the hardest of my life. We had to sell almost everything. My bank account is almost empty. I work in an insurance office, earning a fraction of what I thought I deserved. Michael works late every day. Matthew is in a daycare that has no air conditioning. But do you know what is strange? We are happier. Michael and I talk for real now. We do not argue about money because we know exactly how much we have. Matthew is healthy, and I finally understood that life is not a competition with my friends. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that your lesson, although painful, was necessary. Thank you for that, and sorry for everything else. I read the email 3 times. I looked for signs of manipulation, of strategy, of a plan to soften me. But it sounded genuine. It sounded like someone who had hit bottom and had found something valuable down there. Humility. I did not answer the email, but I did not delete it either. July was a month of decisions. My accountant informed me that the Gold Coast property had received 3 excellent offers. I could sell it and make a considerable profit. The area had appreciated enormously. "What do you recommend?" I asked him. "Financially, selling is the best option, but you could also rent it at market price. It would generate significant passive income." I thought of Michael living in a small apartment in the suburbs. I thought of Matthew growing up without the space that Gold Coast apartment could offer. I thought about, "No, sell it," I said firmly, "to the highest bidder." "Are you sure?" "Completely. Because that apartment represented the old dynamic, the dynamic where I was the silent provider and they were the ungrateful beneficiaries. Selling it was cutting that last financial umbilical cord. The property sold in August for $500,000. An excellent investment, considering I had bought it for half that 10 years ago. With that money, I established an educational trust. But not for Michael, nor for his future children. I established it to give scholarships to low-income young people who wanted to study architecture or engineering, students who would appreciate the opportunity because they had earned it with effort, not by last name. The trust bore Laura's name. When the news became public in business circles, I received a call from Sarah. "Dad, I saw the trust. It is beautiful. Mom always wanted to do something like that. Now I can. Does Michael know? I do not know, and I do not care." I was lying. I did care. I cared that he knew that the money that could have been his inheritance was changing the lives of people who deserved it. September arrived with its rainy afternoons and dramatic skies. I attended the gala dinner of my business club alone. I danced with 3 charming ladies. I drank top-quality scotch and laughed more than I had laughed in years. At the dinner I met Barbara, a 62-year-old woman, retired architect, widow like me. She had a smile that lit up the room and a sharp intelligence that kept me entertained all night. We talked about travel, books, the difficulty of being a parent in a world that demands we give everything and expect nothing. My children call me once a month, she told me. If that, but I have learned that I cannot force them to love me the way I want to be loved. Does it not hurt? At first, yes, a lot. But then you understand that they have their lives and you have to build yours. The love of children cannot be the center of your existence after a certain age. It is unfair to everyone. Those words stayed with me. We exchanged numbers. We started going out for coffee, museums, concerts. It was not romance. Not yet. But it was company. It was conversation. It was remembering that I existed beyond my role as father and provider. On October 3rd, I received a call from a number I did not recognize. I almost did not answer, but something told me to do it. Mr. Miller? Yes. This is Mrs. Garcia, from the Rainbow Daycare. I am the director. My heart accelerated. Matthew went to that daycare. What happened? Do not be alarmed. Everyone is fine. But I needed to speak with you. Your son Michael gave me your number as an emergency contact. Why? Because 2 weeks ago there was an incident. Matthew had a very high fever. We tried to contact Michael and Emily, but neither answered. They were at their jobs. Finally we located them, but it was 2 hours of anguish. Michael asked me to include you as an additional contact. He told me, even though we do not speak, I know that if something happens to my son, my father will come. I stayed silent, processing. I just wanted to verify with you that you agree. Yes, I agree. Before any emergency with that boy, you call me. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Miller. I hung up and stared at the phone. Michael had put me as an emergency contact. After everything, after the fights, the anger, the wounded pride, when it came to the safety of his son, he still trusted me. That meant something. October turned into November. The temperatures dropped. The city was preparing for Thanksgiving. I visited Laura's grave. I talked to her as if she were there. Laura, did I do right? I was too hard. The kids, our kids, they are suffering. And I suffer too. But I cannot give in. I cannot go back to being who I was. Do you understand me? The silence of the dead offers no answers. But in my heart I felt peace. Laura would have agreed. She was always stronger than me in those aspects. On November 20th, I was at a parade with Barbara when my phone rang. Unknown number again. Hello? Mr. Robert Miller? Yes, who is speaking? This is Dr. Evans from General Hospital. Your son Michael is here. The world stopped. What happened? He had a car accident. It is not critical, but he has a fractured leg and some contusions. He is conscious and stable, but he gave us your number to call you. I am on my way. I arrived at the hospital in 20 minutes. Barbara accompanied me without being asked. In the emergency room, I found Emily in the waiting area, with Matthew asleep in her arms. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. Mr. Miller, how is he? Good. He is going to be okay, but scared, and asking for you. Those last words broke me. A doctor took me to the room. Michael was in the bed, leg in a cast, face bruised. When he saw me enter, he started to cry. Dad. I walked over. I took his hand, the same hand I stopped holding years ago. I am here. Dad, I am sorry. I am so sorry. Forgive me for everything. Forgive me for being a terrible son. Forgive me for not valuing you. Forgive me for... Shh. Not now. Rest. I thought I was going to die. The car. The other driver ran the red light. I only thought about Matthew, that my son would grow up without knowing his dad, just like I am letting him grow up without knowing his grandfather. I sat beside him. I did not let go of his hand. You are not going to die. You are okay. Dad, these months have been hell, but they have also been the best of my life, because I learned to work for real, to appreciate what I have, to value Emily because she is with me in good times and bad, not just when there is money. I am glad. And I learned something more important, that love is not measured in dollars, that respect is not bought, that family is something you build every day, not something you demand because a blood tie exists. Those words. Exactly what I wanted him to learn. Michael, listen to me. I am proud of you. of the man you are becoming. Really? Really. He cried harder. I cried too. There, in that hospital room, we hugged like we hadn't hugged in years. It was not a complete reconciliation, it was not erasing the past. But it was a start. Emily entered with Matthew. The boy woke up and saw me. To my surprise, he reached his little arms toward me. Grandpa? That word. That simple word I had never heard from his lips. I took him in my arms. He smelled of baby soap and innocence. He looked at me with those huge eyes, identical to Michael's when he was a boy. Hello, Matthew. I am your grandpa. Grandpa Robert, Emily said softly. Michael has been talking to him about you. Every night before sleeping, he tells him stories about his grandfather, who is strong and wise. I looked at Michael. He nodded. I tell him that someday, when I am a better man, we are going to visit you, and that day I am going to be able to look you in the eyes without shame. That day has arrived, I told him. I spent the whole night at the hospital. Barbara left after making sure I was okay. Emily stayed too, in the chair in the corner, holding Matthew. Michael slept, thanks to the painkillers. I stayed there, in that room, watching my family. My injured son, my exhausted daughter-in-law, my sleeping grandson. And I realized something fundamental. I had won. I had not won the battle. I had won the war. Because my son had learned. He had fallen. He had gotten hurt. He had hit rock bottom. And there, at that bottom, he had found his dignity. He had found his strength. He had found the respect that I could not teach him with words, but could with actions. Sometimes the greatest love is letting them fall, so they learn to fly. In the morning, when Michael woke up, I asked him, "Do you need anything?" "Just for you to be here." "I am here." "Dad, I am not asking you for money. I do not want you to think that." "I know, but I do want to ask you something." "Tell me." "I want you to know your grandson, for real, that you come to our house, even if it is small and humble, that you eat with us, even if we only have enough to make pasta soup, that you be part of our life, not our bank." I looked at Emily. She nodded with tears in her eyes. "Nothing would make me happier." Michael smiled, a genuine smile I had not seen since he was a boy. "And Dad, someday, when I have money saved, I want to pay you back, even if it is a part of everything I owe you. Not because you ask me to, but because it is the right thing to do. You do not owe me anything. I owe you everything, and I am going to spend the rest of my life showing you that it was worth not giving up on me." That afternoon, when Michael was discharged, I drove them to their house in my car. It was an old building in the suburbs, no elevator. The apartment was small, maybe 500 square feet. But it was clean, tidy, full of photos of Matthew. And I, sitting on that small, worn-out sofa, felt richer than ever. Because I had something money cannot buy. A family that finally valued me, not for what I had, but for who I was. That night, back in my big empty house, I called Sarah. "Daughter, can you come spend Christmas with me?" "Of course, Dad. I was going to go anyway." "Invite Michael too, and Emily, and Matthew, and bring your boyfriend. I want to meet him." Silence on the other end. Then, "Dad, are you sure?" "I have never been more sure of anything." "What happened?" "It happened that my son finally grew up, and I finally understood that love is not giving everything. It is knowing when to withdraw so they learn to walk alone." Sarah cried. "I did too." "Is it going to be the best Christmas, Dad?" "Yes, because it is going to be the first one where we all understand the value of being together." I hung up and poured myself a whiskey. I toasted alone, in my study, in front of Laura's photo. We made it, love. It was painful. It was terrible. But we made it. November was saying goodbye with its last rains. December was about to arrive, and with it, a Christmas that promised to be different. A Christmas where I would not be the silent provider. I would be the grandfather, the father, the man who had the courage to say no when everyone expected a yes. And that, I discovered, was worth more than all the millions in the world. I looked at myself in the mirror before sleeping. I saw a 69-year-old man, tired, marked by life, but with bright eyes, because I had recovered something I thought lost forever. My self-respect. And no one, absolutely no one, would ever take it away from me again. December arrived, transforming the city with Christmas lights, and the scent of pine on every corner. But this December was different, not only because of the promise of a family dinner that would finally have meaning, but because I had changed. I was no longer the man who begged for crumbs of affection. I was the patriarch who had recovered his throne, not through money, but through dignity. The first days of the month I spent preparing the house. I hired a lady to help me with the deep cleaning. I took out the Christmas decorations I had not used in years. The nativity scene Laura and I bought during our honeymoon, the glass ornaments, the artificial tree the kids decorated when they were little. Every ornament brought memories. Some hurt, others healed. Barbara came to help me one afternoon. She brought gingerbread cookies she had baked herself. "Your house needs life," she told me while hanging garlands on the staircase. "These last few months you have lived like a monk in a very elegant monastery." She was right. I had been so focused on my pain that I had forgotten to live. "Will you come to Christmas dinner?" I asked her. She stopped mid-decoration. "Robert, that is a family dinner. I do not want to intrude." "You would not intrude. You would be welcome. Besides, I need someone on my side in case things get tense." She smiled. "Are you sure?" "Completely." On December 10th, Michael called me. His voice sounded nervous. "Dad." "About dinner." My stomach tensed. Was he going to cancel again? "Tell me. I want to bring something. I do not want to arrive empty-handed. Emily and I have been saving. Can we buy the turkey or—" "Michael, you do not need to bring anything." "Dad, please. Let me do this. I need to feel like I contribute." I understood what he was saying. It was not about money. It was about his pride. The good pride. The kind that makes you want to contribute, not the kind that makes you feel superior. "Okay. You bring dessert. Matthew likes cookies, right?" "He loves them. Emily makes incredible chocolate chip ones." "Perfect. Then you guys bring dessert." I heard his sigh of relief. "Thanks, Dad." On December 15th, Sarah arrived from Seattle. She brought Andrew, her boyfriend, a young veterinarian, 38 years old, with an honest smile and a firm handshake. "Mr. Miller, it is an honor to finally meet you. Sarah has told me a lot about you. I hope good things." "Only good things," Sarah said, hugging me. That night, the three of us had dinner at the house. I prepared my specialty. Marinated steak with a recipe I perfected over years. Sarah set the table like her mother did, with attention to every detail. Andrew opened a bottle of wine he had brought. We talked for hours. Andrew told me about his veterinary clinic, about his work with rescued animals, about his plans to expand the business. Sarah shone beside him. They looked at each other with that love that needs no words. "When is the wedding?" I asked suddenly. Sarah almost spit out her wine. "Dad, you are barely meeting him. I am old, not blind. I have seen you look at each other. And Andrew, you have touched your left pocket 3 times during dinner. Either you have something important there, or you are nervous about something." Andrew turned red. Sarah looked at him, surprised. "It is true." Andrew took a small velvet box out of his pocket. "I was going to wait for Christmas dinner, in front of the whole family. But your dad is very observant. He proposed to her right there, in my dining room, with the Christmas tree lights illuminating the scene." Sarah cried. I did too. Andrew was shaking while putting the ring on her finger. "Mr. Miller, I want to formally ask for your daughter's hand." "You already gave it to yourself, son, but I appreciate the gesture. You have my blessing, complete." We hugged, the 3 of us. And in that moment, I understood something fundamental. Family is not always broken. Sometimes, it just needs time to heal. On December 20th, I visited Michael at his work. I had coordinated with his secretary for it to be a surprise. I arrived at noon, lunchtime. I found him at his desk, surrounded by blueprints and models. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I came to invite you to lunch." He froze. "Really?" "Really. There is a Japanese place 2 blocks away. My treat." We had sushi and talked about architecture, about his projects, about his dreams. Michael told me about a competition to design a public park. He was working on his proposal during the nights, after putting Matthew to bed. If I win, it would be my first big project with my name, not with my boss's name, mine. "Can I see the sketches?" He showed me photos on his phone. The design was brilliant. Green spaces integrated with play areas, accessible paths, strategically placed shade zones. There was real talent there. It is exceptional, Michael. Do you really think so? I do not only think so. I know so. You have your mother's eye for spaces and my stubbornness to do things right. He smiled. Dad, there is something I need to tell you. Tell me. Emily and I. We are seeing a therapist. I did not expect that. Why? Because we almost destroyed our marriage. Because of money. Because of stress. Because of blaming each other. We needed professional help. And it is working. I am glad. That requires courage. The therapist made us do an exercise. We had to write letters to the people we had hurt. I wrote 3. One for Emily, one for Matthew that he will read when he grows up, and one for you. He took a folded envelope out of his wallet. This is yours. You do not have to read it now. You do not even have to read it ever if you do not want to. I just needed to give it to you. I took the envelope. It was wrinkled from so much time in his wallet. I will read it. Promise? Promise. That night alone in my study, I opened the letter. Michael's handwriting was rushed, emotional. Dad, I do not know where to start. Sorry? Thank you? I love you? All those words feel insufficient to express what I need to tell you. I was a terrible son. Not just these last few years, but always. When Mom was sick, I was building my perfect life with Emily. When you were alone, I was busy being important at my work. When you needed company, I needed money. I saw you as an infinite resource, as a well that would never run dry. And when it ran dry, I got mad at you instead of getting mad at myself. These months without you have been hell, but they have also been my salvation. I learned to work for real. I learned that money is not magic. It is the result of effort. I learned that Emily loves me for who I am, not for what I can give her. I learned that being a father means sacrifice, not delegation. And I learned something more important, that you were always teaching me these lessons, but I was too comfortable to listen. You took away the money, the house, the comforts, and with that, you gave me the greatest gift, the opportunity to become a real man. I do not expect you to forgive me immediately. I do not expect us to go back to being what we were. I just hope that someday when you see me, you can feel pride instead of disappointment. I love you, Dad. I always loved you. I was just too lost to know it. Your son, Michael. I folded the letter carefully and put it in the drawer where I had Laura's photos. The most important words deserve to be close to the heart. On December 23rd, a day before dinner, I received an unexpected visit. Linda, Emily's mother, knocked on my door at noon, alone, without her usual entourage of arrogance. Robert, can we talk? I let her in. I offered her coffee, which she rejected. We sat in the living room with a palpable tension between us. I came to ask for forgiveness, she said finally. I almost fell off the chair. Excuse me? We owe you an apology. My husband and I treated you horribly. We made you feel inferior. And the worst is that we passed that attitude to Emily. Why did you do it? She stayed silent a moment, searching for words. Because we felt threatened by you, by your real success. We inherited our money, Robert. My husband is a businessman only because his father left him the company. I never worked a day in my life. Everything we have was gifted, she continued. And then you arrived. A man who built everything from scratch, who made himself, who has more money than us, but wears simple clothes and drives a standard car, who does not need to show off because he has nothing to prove. That made us feel small. So you decided to make me feel small. Yes. And we dragged our daughter into that stupid game. We taught her to look down on you, to use you. And we almost destroyed her marriage because of that. Why tell me this now? Because Emily came to my house last week, crying. She told me she had been the worst daughter-in-law in the world, that you had been generous and she had been cruel, that Michael had learned more in 6 months of effort than in his whole life of comfort, and that if I had an ounce of decency, I would come apologize to you. Linda wiped her tears. My daughter is maturing, Robert. She is becoming a better woman than me, and I do not want to be the kind of grandmother who teaches Matthew the wrong values. I looked at her for a long moment, looking for signs of manipulation, but I only saw genuine remorse. I accept the apology, Linda. Really? Really. But under one condition, whatever it is. That tomorrow at dinner, we all start from zero. No grudges, no competitions, no egos. Just family trying to be better. Deal. December 24th dawned cold and bright. I woke up early, full of an energy I had not felt in years. The cleaning lady arrived at 7 to help me with the final preparations. We had decided to make a traditional dinner: turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, apple salad, and of course, space for the cookies Michael would bring. Barbara arrived at 4 in the afternoon with a pecan pie that smelled like glory. Nervous? She asked me. Terrified. It is normal. It is your first Christmas with your family in years. And if something goes wrong, then something will go wrong. But you will have tried. That is what matters. At 6 they started to arrive. First Sarah and Andrew, loaded with gifts and laughter. Then Linda and her husband Ernest, noticeably more humble than before. And finally at 6:30, Michael. He was carrying Matthew. Emily was carrying a huge box of cookies. The three of them looked nervous. I opened the door before they knocked. "Welcome home." Matthew extended his arms toward me, yelling, "Grandpa!" with that high-pitched voice 2-year-olds have. I took him in my arms, and something inside me broke in the most beautiful way possible. "Hi, champ. Merry Christmas." Michael and Emily hugged me, the three of us together in the entrance, forming a circle of forgiveness. "Dad, thanks for having us," Michael said. "This is your house. It always will be." The dinner was magical. We all sat around the big dining room table. Matthew in his high chair between Michael and me. Sarah and Andrew radiant with their newly premiered engagement. Barbara conversing pleasantly with Linda. Ernest and I talking about business but without competition. Just exchange. Before starting to eat, I asked for silence. "I want to say something. This year was the hardest of my life. I lost my family, or I thought I had lost it, but in reality what I lost was a toxic dynamic, a way of relating based on money and convenience. I looked at each one of them, and in that pain I found something better. I found dignity, I found respect, I found the opportunity for us all to learn what really matters." Michael had tears in his eyes. This table has people who made mistakes, me included, but it also has people who had the courage to change, to grow, to ask for forgiveness. I raise my glass. Here is to second chances, to imperfect families that dare to be better, to Laura, who is watching us from wherever she is, probably saying, "It was about time," and to all of you who made this stubborn old man the happiest grandfather and father in the world. "Cheers!" everyone shouted. We ate, we laughed, we told stories. Matthew smeared cookies all over his face, and we all applauded. Andrew told bad jokes that made us laugh anyway. Emily and Sarah connected talking about recipes and wedding plans. Linda offered to help with the wedding organization, without trying to control everything. And Michael and I had a moment alone on the terrace, while the rest sang carols in the living room. "Dad, I have something for you." He gave me a small envelope. It is not much, but it is the start. Inside was a check for $1,000. "Michael, don't you need?" "Yes, I need it. These are my first real savings. The first money I saved instead of spending. And I want it to be the first of many payments. Not because you ask me, but because it is the right thing. Son, someday I am going to pay you back everything, every dollar. And when I do, I am going to be able to look you in the eyes and say, I am a man of my word." I tore the check in front of him. "What are you doing?" "That money is for Matthew, for his education. Open a savings account for him, and every month deposit what you can. That will be your payment." "But Dad..." "Michael, I do not need your money. I never needed it. What I needed was your respect, and you have given me that. That is worth more than all the checks in the world." We hugged there under the city stars, with the sound of our family singing in the background. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, son, and I am proud of the man you have become." At midnight we opened gifts. I had bought Matthew a small bicycle with training wheels. His eyes lit up like Christmas lights. Michael and Emily gave me a new photo album, full of empty spaces, so we can fill it together, Emily explained, with new memories. Better memories. Sarah and Andrew gave me a formal invitation to their wedding in April. "We want you to walk us both to the altar," Sarah said, "as father of the bride and as the man who taught Andrew what it means to be a good husband." and Barbara gave me a book, 100 Years of Solitude. You read my mind, I told her. I always wanted to read it. I know. You told me the third time we went out. I was listening. The night ended past 2 in the morning. Matthew was sleeping on the sofa. The adults conversed with that camaraderie that only appears when defenses are down and hearts are open. When everyone left, I stayed alone in the living room. The tree lights still blinked. The dirty dishes could wait until tomorrow. I poured myself the last drink of eggnog and sat in my favorite armchair. I took out my phone and looked at the photos I had taken during the night. Matthew with his bike, Sarah showing her ring, Michael and I hugging on the terrace, the whole family around the table. There was one photo in particular that made me cry. Barbara had taken it without me noticing. I was sitting at the head of the table, with Matthew on my lap, surrounded by my family, and on my face there was something I had not seen since before Laura died. Genuine peace. My phone vibrated. A message from Michael. Dad, thanks for the best Christmas of my life. See you tomorrow for leftovers. Tradition? Remember? I will never forget it again. I love you. I responded. I will be here. I will always be here. I got up and walked to Laura's photo on the mantel. We made it, my love. It was painful. It was terrible. But it worked. The kids learned. I learned. We all learned. I touched the frame of the photo. I wish you were here to see this. To see Michael working hard. Sarah in love. Matthew growing up surrounded by true love. You would have loved it. That night I slept with a peace I had not felt in years, and I dreamed of Laura. We were young again, dancing at our wedding. She whispered in my ear, I am proud of you. I am proud of me too, I answered her. Months have passed since that Christmas. Michael won the park competition, and his name appears on the plaques as the lead architect. Emily was promoted at her job. Matthew calls me Grandpa and comes to my house every Sunday. Sarah got married in April. It was a beautiful wedding, where I danced with my daughter and told her that her mother would be proud of the woman she had become. And I learned the most important lesson of my life at 69 years old. True love is not giving everything without limits. It is knowing when to withdraw so others learn to walk alone. Sometimes the greatest show of love is saying no when everyone expects a yes. Sometimes the only way to save your family is letting them fall. And sometimes losing everything is the only way to win what really matters. My name is Robert Miller. I am 69 years old, and finally I know who I am. A man who had the courage to demand respect instead of buying affection. If you are listening to this story, and you identify with it, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Many parents fall into the trap of giving without limits because we confuse love with provision. But the true gift we can give our children is not money. It is teaching them the value of effort, the importance of dignity, and the meaning of respect. And if you are a child who is using their parents, I tell you this with all the love in the world. Wake up before it is too late. Because the day we are no longer here, you are not going to remember the money we gave you. You are going to remember the time you did not spend with us, and that regret is not cured by anything. Family is the greatest treasure we have, but like all treasures, it requires care, respect, and constant work. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, it is never too late to recover your dignity. Never.